are 4 copies of Thoughtseize and 3 copies of Hymn to Torak. That's his disruption.
That's the start. You got to find those. And 4 copies of Liliana the Veil, too, especially if you can cast it on turn 2.
Yeah.
You spoke of Thoughtseize. It's there. Going to turn the hand around. There's also Punishing Fire, Deathrite, Shaman, and a Tarmogoyf, so there's also the ability to cast a Lily on turn 2 if Keathley happens to draw one.
This is one of the swingy Punishing Jund hands. If he's playing against a normal creature deck, this hand's pretty close to a lock to win the game.
Yeah, your hand is great. You get to take a look at their hand. You've Mana Acceleration with Deathrite Shaman, Punishing Fire, even with the Grove already, too.
Yeah. But in a combo matchup, this hand is basically Thoughtseize and a slow clock.
But your opponent does have the ability to fail. Here's a Preordain. And if you're Keathley, that's what you're hoping happens.
This is a very juicy Preordain that Jacob is looking at here. Dark Ritual and a Ponder, I believe. Hard to imagine either one of those cards going back.
We're going to Keathley's turn. He will draw a copy of Badlands. Wooded Foothills. Going to go to the bin, down to 19. Old school Wooded Foothills. Crazy to say that.
Well, not old school just yet. I don't know.
It's old.
I don't know if anybody in the public still has physical copies of the new fetch lands just yet, but soon it will be.
Probably a Thoughtseize. Yeah. Got to fire this on from turn 1. The chances of you dying on turn 2 are actually pretty real.
Even if Nathan rather doesn't know exactly what Jacob's up to, there's enough evidence in the opening that it's some sort of combo matchup.
Cataxian Probe, Dark Ritual, Infernal Tutor, Lotus Petal, along with a Polluted Delta and Underground Sea is what Keathley is looking at. Gets to select one of those spells on the left. Infernal Tutor seems to be the best of the bunch, in my opinion.
All the other elements you would describe as non-essential, so the hand's fairly redundant otherwise, so got to go after Infernal Tutor.
Baugh will draw. Ponders what he's found. And Jacob has to know that game 1 is quite good for him now that he knows exactly what he's up against. Cataxian Probe is what he's going to hardcast. The draw was a Badlands. You'll see Keathley point that out for Baugh. He will add that to his paper and draw a card. Looks like Lotus Petal is what he's picked up.
So the bottleneck for Jacob, definitely not mana.
Yeah, that's not an issue at all.
It's just going to be, can he find something like Infernal Tutor, Ad Nauseam, something to go off with? And it appears that he has.
Yep. Dark Ritual, Ad Nauseam, and Lotus Petal are the cards that he's looking at right now. Thank you, Jacob. You are hoping not to get hit by a Hymn to Torak.
Yep. Probably even Thoughtseize is fine at this spot.
Mm-hmm.
And you certainly don't care about another Badlands off the top.
You can have as much black and red mana as you'd like. Here's a Tarmogoyf to provide a clock. There's a land, a sorcery in the graveyard.
I wouldn't get too attached to that die.
Nah, I probably wouldn't either.
Probably going to be picking that up along with that Goyf, the 2 lands, and the cards in the graveyard momentarily, but we'll play out the stretch.
Baugh going to draw that Ad Nauseam. There's a Polluted Delta. He wants to put the pedal to the metal. He certainly can right now. Dark Ritual's 1.
So up to 5 black mana.
Yes, sir. 2 spells as well. Pretty important at this point because we're going to be storming out.
All right, so no mana floating, 3 spells.
Yeah.
And away we go.
Take 1 and 2 and 3 more. That'll be 5, 6. Still 6.
Grim Tutor not typically seen in these lists. Sometimes you see a copy.
7 from Cabal Therapy. 8 from a Ponder. 9 from Duress. Fairly sure he's got to keep going. 11.
I think that does it.
Yeah. Looks like he's going to stop here.
He's still got 2 petals left in his hand as well.
Yes, he does. So he can add 2 petals to it as well. He'll have 4 petals, the ability to cast Grim Tutor. Cabal Ritual will be for Threshold, and assuming that he does have a copy of Tendrils of Agony in his main deck.
And he does.
That should be more than enough. However, We don't know the experience of Jacob Baugh with this deck. If it were a player like Brian Cook, the fireworks would be over.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Jacob.
He looks satisfied. I think
Yep.
he's done the math, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't have it. There's so much mana at this point.
Yeah. Not selling Jacob short at all here, because we know that Bryant is someone who's played the Epic Storm for so long. He helped contribute to actually build the deck.
Yeah.
So you know that he knows all the mechanics of everything.
And this actually is a pretty straightforward one. This 2 mana gets him up to 5, plus the 2 petals is up to 7, and that's Grim Tutor for Tendrils.
Yep. Grim Tutor, as you mentioned, not a card we see a lot of in Storm decks. He's going to cast a Cabal Therapy, which I actually like. Get some information on the way out. It's basically free at this point, adds to your Storm count.
Get that punching fire, yeah.
You show him. There's the Tutor. And now the Tendrils. And you see Grim Tutor, search your library for any card. You have to pay 3 life to do that.
Another example in Magic's long and storied history of trying to get Demonic Tutor right, rather.
Try again.
I mean, this card, if you put into Standard, would probably be pretty close to unplayable. It's only in Eternal formats where things like this go off the rails.
You think so?
You put this card into Standard, I think it would be very hard to play.
All right. Looks like you search for Past in Flames.
Yep. By Standard, I mean not necessarily this particular Standard format, but a typical Standard-powered format.
Sure. He's just going to concede the game here, so that's going to do it. Jacob Baugh's going to win game number 1. Past in Flames would allow for a lot of rituals, and of course the Tendrils Agony to get the job done. So Ad Nauseam Tendrils up a game here over Punishing Jund. As we head to the sideboard, I've got Keathley in front of me, and I will look at 2 Duress, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Power Blast, 2 Circle Extraction, an Ancient Grudge, 2 Golgari Charmer, Life from the Loam, a Scavenging Ooze, an Engineered Plague, and a Crozen Grip. One thing you can do against these Storm decks is go after their graveyard a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. The other thing is anything that trades 1 for 1 is valuable against Ad Nauseam. It's a deck that's built around critical mass. So even if you look at something like Pyroblast, for example, not a lot of blue cards in the deck. You could argue they're not essential elements. He combos out through Past in Flames or Tendrils or Ad Nauseam. But Pyroblast is still good because all he's trying to do is wear down the total number of resources that Jacob has. That alongside with the Duresses, I think they're definitely going to be coming in. On Jacob's side here, a Caracas, 2 Chain of Vapors, a Tropical Island, 3 Abrupt Decay, a Cabal Therapy, 2 Dread Knight, a Massacre, 4 copies of Dark Confidant. I could see just presenting the same deck, basically.
Not changed much.
Well, here's the thing. You can bring in the Dark Confidants for matchups where, kind of control matchups where you anticipate your opponent cutting creature removal, but Punishing Jund has so much creature removal in it that there's no way anything can take out all of it. At the minimum, Lightning Bolt stays in the deck, and possibly other things as well. Besides that, there's not really anything that's standing out to me as an essential element. I would just want to keep the deck as intact as possible because I think Jacob's game 1 game plan is better than anything the sideboard really offers.
Well, if you're going to bring in Dark Confidant, you might as well bring in Squirrel Confidant too.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't bring in Dark Confidant, but I would rather bring in Squirrel Confidant first because they're both they're both essentially as useless as one another, but one's much cuter.
That's true. And if it's all about cuteness with Squirrel Confidant, we can definitely bring that in to the equation. It is finally here. We released this last weekend at our Season 3 Invitational in New Jersey.
Up to no good, conspiring on how to get some nuts, I assume. Not totally sure. In any case, sleeves, playmat, deck boxes, all this available at StarCityGames.com.
And of course, 2 free tokens when you do enter a Legacy Open, which is what we are watching right now. Squirrel Confidant available at StarCityGames.com, as Patrick did mention, though Dark Confidant unlikely to come in this matchup, which I do agree with you with.
It would be one thing, you're playing against a deck like Esper. They have 4 copies of Swords of Plowshares. It's probably the first thing that hits the bench. Confidant makes a lot of sense there. But there's just no way for Punishing Jund to cut enough creature removal to make something like that justifiable. Even if you assume he's cutting Punishing Fires and his Abrupt Decays, there's still 4 Bolts and Liliana as well. So I think Jacob's going to basically present the same deck.
Patrick says leave it on the bench.
Yep. I leave all of this on the bench. Because Storm is a critical mass deck, because you need a lot of stuff to go off, the burden of proof is on the side of, I absolutely need this card in the matchup. So just because he has some Abrupt Decays in his sideboard, Nathan has some targets, even though, there's Chain of Vapors and conceivably things that he would want to bounce. because of the nature of Jacob's deck, he's going to want to keep it as true to the combo as possible and only bring in cards when it's absolutely necessary.
I do think that this matchup is still very favorable for Jacob.
For sure. 2 Pyroblast and 2 Duress. Those help, but that on its own is not enough to turn this matchup around.
Yeah. But if Keathley does, kind of cobble together a hand with a lot of discard, and, Tarmogoyf is a clock, it's not impossible.
Or a fast, discard into Liliana plussing. May be able to keep Jacob off of enough spells so he can't ever go off.
He has Dark Confidant as well in this deck. So.
Yeah.
Let's see what Nathan's able to find here. Looks like he gets kept pretty quickly. And Baugh's going to send it back. And if you're rooting for Keathley, I mean, that's a step in the right direction. Baugh's going to have to take some mulligans here, I think, for Nathan to win.
Unlike the Sneak and Show matchup where, you mulligan, it doesn't really matter because the deck's all about just slapping A and B together. The Storm deck needs, again, all of its pieces to go off, or a lot of pieces to go off. So the mulligans really matter a lot, particularly with Nathan bringing in all of these good 1-for-1 trades. So as you said, this is the starting point.
It's very necessary for this to happen. See what Baugh can find this go around. Doesn't exude a lot of confidence, that hand.
And he does appear to be legitimately considering mulligan to 5.
All right, looks like he's going to go with it. Just a Bloodstained Mire. Pass it back over to Baugh. Scalding Tarn, down to 19 he goes.
Now, Jund is a deck that typically plays with Wasteland, so Jacob has to be conscious of that and search appropriately.
What island is that?
That is a Japanese 4th. I don't know if they had 4th edition or Renaissance there, but I believe that's where it's from.
Pretty nice island, actually. I kind of like it. This may not resolve this Ponder, by the way. Yep, there's Pyroblast.
This is a really good play from Nathan, and this is why I like Pyroblast in the matchup. Again, the cards he's going to be targeting with Pyroblast are non-essential elements. He's not going to be breaking up the combo per se, but anything that keeps Jacob off of assembling a raw mass of resources is really valuable. Any 1-for-1 trade Nathan gets to execute is so helpful for him.
Especially when Baugh did take a mulligan, too.
Yeah.
Grafdigger's Gauge to the draw, that's going to come down.
Imagine it like this. If both players mulligan to 5, who's favored? Nathan is, or at least more favored than on 7-card hands. So the more and more that Nathan can kind of make the game play like they're both on 5 cards, the better it is.
Wasn't sure if he'd bring in Dark Confidant, but here it is. Tarmogoyf with the draw here for Keathley.
And I think this Dark Confidant is a long ball proposition against punishing Judd. Even if Nathan believes 100% that there's no creatures in Jacob's deck post-board, the nature of his deck does not allow him to cut all of his creature removal. There's too much of it. So we'll see what happens here, but I would be stunned if this Dark Confidant got to untap and trigger.
Yeah, I believe there's a Liliana in Keathley's hand, and that elevator goes down when there's Dark Confidant in play. I don't think you can even consider letting that live for a single turn. There is the Liliana. Yep. Get that right out of here.
And again, another 1-for-1 exchange. Try to attrition down both players' resources and then win with your Tarmogoyf for whatever's left over. That's the game plan here for Nathan.
Infernal Tutor. See what we're revealing. It's a Lion's Eye Diamond. It's a little bit scary.
This is worrisome.
It's powerful a card as that one is.
I do not believe Nathan's hand is really equipped with any more disruption beyond this point. He's got a Tarmogoyf, a Surgical Extraction. I guess that qualifies.
Yeah, that definitely qualifies.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf as well.
Deathrite Charm in the draw. There's a backup Liliana. That's what Keith was going to discard. Let's see what Baugh's going to discard here. He may think it's safe to do. Oh boy.
So getting rid of that Tendrils is significant here. If Jacob is on the plan to win this game with Past in Flames, the surgical extraction may render him without win conditions in the deck.
Also, there's a Grafdigger's Cage in play.
Yeah.
Can't play cards from your graveyard.
Yeah, there's all sorts of trouble now. I mean, he may have brought in something like Abrupt Decay, let's say, so he can get the Grafdigger's Cage or Chain of Vapor, something. But
there's a Deathrite Shaman.
If surgical extraction's on his radar, this is all sorts of trouble.
I would be surprised if it is. Surgical extraction is not a card that sees a lot of play right now. He's going to hit this in the draw step, I imagine. Let's see what he's going after. He's going after Ponder. Wow. And this is in the draw step.
Yeah, Jacob may have dodged a huge bullet here. And I think this may be a hand, depending on exactly how many outs Jacob has to Grafdigger's Cage, maybe a hand that can just win this turn. And Jacob's at 19. I mean, he has a lot of leeway to get aggressive with this. One presumes Infernal Tutor for ad nauseum.
If he can play that with it on the stack, bust both.
He can float a lot of mana here.
Yeah, he can float a lot of mana. He can cast Dark Ritual, that's 3. -2 for the tutors, 1. That doesn't even bring into the equation the island. He hasn't played a land yet for the turn. Bust 2 Lions, Eye Diamonds in response. He can do some crazy stuff this turn, or at least try to. He's already drawn a card. See, Keathley's going to write down the information. And this might be a situation where he does just have to go for it. Potentially.
It's hard to imagine with Liliana of the Veil in play that things get better for Jacob over time. The only card in his hand that appears to be, well, maybe Jacob can do without this is the Grim Tutor.
I think that's the only one he can do without.
So maybe you can wait one turn. But there's still a risk, you know. Nathan has draw steps, and if he finds another discard spell, you may not be able to go off after that point. So this may be the best window for Jacob, even though there's no assurance that he wins the game this turn.
I'm just not sure I would want to play another turn, I guess. Maybe I'm a little too scared of a random draw step from Keathley. But if I'm Jacob, I've got the potential to do something pretty good here, something pretty powerful. Though if I'm him, I do wish I have my tendrils in hand.
This is complicated.
Yeah.
And Jacob may be looking at this right now and saying the odds of me winning this turn if I go off are under 50%.
Yep.
Given all the variables at play, probably has to remove the Grafdigger's Cage and so forth. But facing down this, where, the next turn, Deathrite Shaman gets to untap and gets the tendrils out of the graveyard. And now what's the plan? He may just be forced to pull the trigger here, even though it is a bit risky.
Modern players, that is time.
Interesting. Gonna cast a Dark Ritual, and I think Grim Tutor. Maybe?
It looks like he wants to float a black.
Okay.
Or not.
Or not. Or so.
Or maybe. Or blue, perhaps. Or he's just separating his cards. We don't know just yet.
Yep. He's trying to figure it all out.
And there is an argument that he can pass the turn, intend on discarding Grim Tutor to Liliana, and hoping that his draw step next turn yields something better, but that seems too risky.
Yeah.
Too many draw steps from Nathan punish that line of play.
Chain of Vapor. It's a card he has access to. I may search up a Brainstorm here.
See what this does, but I feel like James Hammond is absolutely getting forced at this point to go off this current turn.
The fact that he's played these 2 spells.
Yeah, because the only thing that appeared to be cushion against the Liliana was the Grim Tutor. Now that's gone, the rest of Jacob's hand is composed of essential elements. So curious to see what this...
He's unsure of what to search for. You can just tell. Of course, he doesn't have to reveal what he searches for. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the chain.
I guess he could try to be bridging over 2 turns of saying go here, discarding something, probably a lion's eye diamond, untapping. He's just.
So what he's doing, see, this is the issue, right? He's bouncing the Deathrite Shaman because if the Tendrils is gone, he can't win.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Nathan knew that before because you saw him Surgical Extraction and Ponder, so chances are he didn't. But if your play is Dark Ritual, Grim Tutor for Chain of Vapor to bounce the Deathrite Shaman, it's very clear that he can't beat the Tendrils being removed from the graveyard. And Keathley's draw for the turn was a Surgical Extraction. So, I mean, it's easy for me to say in here, dude, just off the Tendrils. And the other thing he could do, he's going to concede the game because I imagine he actually did target the Tendrils, and Baugh's just saying, okay, I can't win if you do that, and that's going to do it. So Nathan Keathley's going to win game number 2 here over Jacob Baugh. Punishing Jund and Ad Nauseam are going to go to a 3rd game.
But I think that line of play from Jacob lends him into basically a dead end there.
I agree.
Because I don't know if he can beat the Liliana plus. I don't know if he can beat the board at that stage. I think he may just have to ritual up a bunch, go get Ad Nauseam.
And hope the cards come out right.
I mean, again, things have to break extremely well for him. You know, that is a given, but I think the line of play there leads him to almost certain doom.
I think the hope with Ad Nauseam plan gives him a better opportunity to win the game than the Dark Ritual for Grim Tutor for bounce your thing and, cross my fingers, like, what are you even hoping to draw at that point?
Right, and you're going to have way less life to work with the following turn with the Ad Nauseam because
you're hit from Tarmogoyf.
Tarmogoyf is coming across for 5 points of damage at least.
Yeah, that's a turn where I think you're just supposed to go for it, but we'll see what happens in game number 3 as both players will shuffle and sideboard up. While we wait, we will talk about Star City Games Game Night, which is underway now. Started on Wednesday, and we're going to be doing it for Wednesdays for a little while.
Already a successful program. We're seeing the photos of game night prizes coming up on our social media feeds. Every month there's going to be a new set of pins and tokens. You see them in the bottom left-hand corner. That is September's kit. If you're looking to get involved in October as soon as possible, please sign up StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. This will be held every Wednesday night. Stores have full discretion to run these events however they want to, sanctioned or unsanctioned, whatever format they feel best serves their player base. Just get people into your store. Again, StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. And this program is now worldwide, so even if you are outside the United States, we can still get those kits over to you.
And really, who wouldn't want a squirrel?
Who would not?
Let's not kid ourselves here, people.
Loafing around, like many of us on a Sunday, watching football or Magic coverage or what have you.
Yep. For you Browns fans out there, it looks as though they were defeated. Thanks, Twitter, for letting me know.
Eating some food.
Love you guys.
Looking like he's about to go to sleep.
His eyes are open. He's not going to sleep.
Exhausted, though, from a day of feasting.
Well, that's probably true.
Just like many of us.
Yeah. Speak for yourself.
No, I'm obviously here with you. That's way different.
I can't believe Bernal's playing Miracles.
He likes to mix it up.
Yeah, it's always so unfortunate for him, though, even with Back to Basics, too. Back to Basics looks pretty nice right now. Baugh going to take a mulligan. He's going to be on the play here again with the Storm deck. Keathley keeps pretty quick. Again, tough matchup here for Punishing Jund. Even being able to play a 3rd game is pretty impressive.
The mulligans help a lot, though.
Yes, they do.
And Nathan has a lot of stuff in his sideboard that matters. And none of it's very Storm specific, It's not like there's Pyrostack Pillar hanging on the sideboard, but enough of his cards here do double duty, and that's a very common feature of Legacy sideboards. You need to have cards that have multiple applications and multiple matchups. And there's a lot of cards that here, like the Duress, the Pyroblast, the Graphicer's Cage, it adds up to a lot of hate.
Let's go Taxian Probe. Let's take a look at this grip. Dark Confidant, Graphicer's Cage, a Sylvan Library, a Tarmogoyf, a Deathrite Shaman, a Bloodstained Mire, and a Badlands. Not a bad hand, however, I'm not a big Graphicer's Cage fan in this matchup because you can win even though it's in play. So I would like to see, Keathley mulligan a hand that has maybe discard or the ability to cast a turn 2 Liliana.
Graphicer's Cage is one of those cards where when it's being supplemented by other stuff, it has the potential to be very good, but on its own is not going to be something Jacob really cares that much about.
Flooded Strand, going to go get an Underground Sea here.
But Jacob has to be pretty stoked about the hand that he saw there. Just creatures, a Sylvan Library.
Now, probably without a Sylvan Library now. Well, actually, just take the cage, excuse me.
Yeah.
Get that out of the way. So this is a very beatable hand.
Sylvan Library is very slow, and the cost of Nathan playing Sylvan Library on his second turn instead of, say, Dark Confidant is also very high, so I don't think Jacob cares that much about that.
Deathright Shaman comes into play. Let's see if it's going to be a Ponder or a Brainstorm. It's going to be a Brainstorm here for Baugh. 3 cards coming, of course 2 cards back, and there is a fetch land in his hand to make it a perfect Beast Storm.
And a Petal, a Cabal, Ritual, a lot of mana here. This is, you know, potential turn 3 win potential written on it right now.
Got to work towards filling up that graveyard. 4 cards already down there.
He has another fetch land, he has another Ponder, he has a Dark Ritual, so we know he can get to Threshold next turn. Maybe Deathrite Shaman breaks that up some, but it doesn't feel like Nathan can really spend his second turn activating a Deathrite Shaman.
Tough decision here for Baugh. Brainstorming, always difficult in Legacy. We all know that, but brainstorming with Storm, that's really tough.
Yeah. Letting go of any of the cards feels really hard, you know?
Yeah, I would never want to. They're all integral to you going off. You can tell Jacob is pretty unsure.
These are really hard.
There's a Flooded Strand. Pass the turn back. Over to Keathley. Don't get a great look. It's a Thoughtseize. That's a big draw.
Huge draw here. He had nothing to fill out this third mana he has access to this turn. It was looking like his turn was shaping up to be, you know, play a Dark Confidant and attack you for 1. Now he's got a great opening here. The perfect draw there for Nathan.
Yeah, got to fire this off. This is part of the reason I kind of do question the casting of Brainstorm instead of Ponder last turn. Just because you do know that you're playing against a deck with a lot of discard.
Yeah, it's a 1-turn window for Nathan to find it, though.
Yeah, that's true.
The bigger critique of Brainstorm appeared to be, well, what's the card you don't want in this hand? Brainstorm's great insurance when you get to the point where, well, you know, there's something weak in my hand, an extra combo piece I don't need, or extra lands or what have you. Being able to shuffle those away is huge.
I think Paul's going to draw the Grim Tutor. 4 cards in the graveyard. Fetch lands 5, Ritual 6.
Petal 7, so. So let's do some math here. 3, 4, 5, 8 mana. So we can Grim Tutor for ad nauseum and have nothing floating.
Risky.
Yes, very risky.
Especially given that you know the cards in Keathley's hand, because you knew he just drew a Thoughtseize because you obviously probed him, and he didn't have that before. And I imagine that he knows the rest of the grip there, which is Tarmogoyf and X. It might be safe to just say, hey, I'm going to, you know, just take another draw step.
Very dangerous to do that with Dark Confidant in play, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you're playing against this deck with Thoughtseizes and Hymns and various Red Blasts. Not that Red Blast is very significant right now, but still.
Baugh does have the ability to go get, you know, he can go Grim Tutor for Past and Flames. I'm not sure if that's great or not, but it's definitely an option.
Well, if my addition is correct, he has no mana floating, so I don't know if passive flames is really an option.
No, so if he rituals for ad nauseum,
he's got a mana float. Yeah, he gets to float 1.
Yeah,
yep, absolutely.
And, you know, then he can flashback probe and maybe do a little bit of cantripping. You know, I don't know if that's for the best, but I mean, he's making a move either way because he's adding a bunch of mana to his mana pool. He's going to cast his Grim Tutor. He's got 3 black floating.
Well, at that point, he can also just flash back his rituals, flash back the Grim Tutor, which can go get tendrils.
Yeah. He's got a couple of spells this turn, right?
Yeah, the Petal,
4.
the Ritual.
Keathley's at 17.
Pass and Flames gets up to 5. Ritual on the way back is 6. Cabal Ritual 7. Grim Tutor's 8. Tendrils is 9.
That's 18.
Yeah. Assuming, again, that I've done the math correctly.
I mean, he can flashback probe for free.
Sure.
I think you're supposed to get Past and Flames.
Past and Flames does not lock you into paying mana cost on flashbacks. You can just do alternate costs and so forth.
Got a good ad nauseum. I actually think the Past and Flames was the win.
Well, we're here now.
Yep.
Even if the Tendrils was short of lethal,
The Dark Confidant play.
yeah, you can just pass and
Hope for the best.
Dark Confidant probably ends up doing the work for you.
It's not like they got any creatures to remove.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. That's a real card, finally.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Feels like he really needs a pedal to get anything going here.
He hasn't played a land yet this turn.
Oh, he has not played a land. Okay, never mind. That's a huge deal.
And he's actually at 6 as we didn't have the life removed from the Grim Tutor.
Robert Jacobs, please come to the stage. Robert Jacobs, please come to the stage.
5, 4, 3, actually.
This feels like the point where he's going to stop, although, again, it doesn't seem like he can ritual and then have blue mana to do anything else with the cantrips, and the cards that he has in hand don't facilitate anything.
I think he has to keep going.
And he needs to sack a fetch land to reinitiate anything at this stage.
He's at a virtual 2.
Right. But I believe the cards on the table right now are a dead end.
Yeah, those don't amount to anything. You know, there's a bunch of duresses and Cabal therapies. Those obviously don't do anything. The only cards that matter right now are Ritual, Lion's Eye Diamond, the 2 rituals, excuse me, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and the Lion's Eye Diamond. Those generate mana. However, they don't generate blue mana, so he has to keep going. Delta, that doesn't change anything. 2. That might as well not have text at this point.
Yeah, that's not helpful either.
Can't pay the alternate mana.
Feels like he needs to find a Lotus Petal.
1. It's got to be like a bunch of Lotus Petals off in a row.
Yeah, he needs to, yeah, like running petals or a basic land, an untapped land, and non-fetch land plus a petal.
And LA needs a start. We're still going. We're still going. It's petals, man.
Blackjack, man, you gotta keep hitting.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Got something. That was the card. Or one of several cards, potentially.
Yeah, all right. So now what can he do? He can generate some mana here. He can play a Dark Ritual and a Cabal Ritual, and then he can...
He's still dead-ended on this.
Yeah, because he's a... well, so now I think he needs like a... He probably needs like an Underground Sea.
A swamp or an island. Another
I
petal.
think he needs blue mana.
Well, the petal gets him there either way. As long as he finds some other mana source, it's fine.
Yeah. He needs another mana source. Yep, there's
right.
Cabal Ritual, and that's not going to do it. So Nathan Keathley is going to get through in this very bad matchup over Jacob Baugh. Punishing Jund will take down Ad Nauseam Tendrils, and I think his friend may be explaining to him exactly what he could have done to get himself out of that situation, which I think is search for Past and Flames and go through the graveyard again.
We had to go back to the tape. There's a lot of math there.
Of course.
From the looks of things, from where I was sitting, it looked like Past and Flames would allow him to just go in Grim Tutor and get Tendrils and kind of win manual style.
Yeah.
I don't think that Ad Nauseam may have been a red herring there, but it's hard to know without going back and seeing everything one more time.
Congratulations to Nathan Keathley. Yeah, squeaking by there, winning game 3 by not really doing much of anything. But
cast Dark Confidant and force the action.
Yep.
Force Jacob to have it, and he was not able to do it.
A win's a win's a win's a win.
Right.
That's what they say. Back to the